The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday.
And it's Monday is right.
And another big announcement. The task force. The
task force of economic destruction.
Yes. And you know.
And did you see the amazing geniuses that are on this task force?
Yeah, I did. And you know what really amazes me is they still believe that people will actually be impressed by these titles. You know, it's not like Economic Development Committee or something like that. It's not. They have to call now. It's a task force. It's kind of like, you know, I'm getting flashbacks of Elliot Ness in Chicago. You know.
Well, you know why though?
Organized crime task force.
Right, but there's a legal reason for that. They can meet in secret.
Oh, yeah, well, we know, but it doesn't matter anyway. Even if they're not supposed to meet in secret, they meet in secret. What do we care?
Right, because they're only an advisory committee.
That's
right. But, you know, let's look at some of these names, honestly. I mean, first off, you've got the big kahuna, all right? Former Mayor Bob Correa. Now, you know, when Bob was mayor, he had a lot of the right ideas, but the implementation was wrong.
But, you know, I've got to kind of like disagree to a point on that. Yeah, you're right. He had some good ideas about the city.
Right.
He understood that the city was really in financial trouble, and he implemented some renegotiations of salaries. He tried to shrink some government. He tried to, you know, kind of tighten up the purse strings a little bit in that respect. But as far as economic development,
no, he was nothing.
You know, he's never had a clue. He spent 30 years in Boston,
right?
And one term as mayor, and the city has not improved. As a matter of fact, if you take those 32 years and look at them and look where Fall River was 32 years ago and where it is today.
Yeah, it's not a good track record.
It's not a very good scenario. So, you know, but again, you know, Sam loves to get the old retreads and or these people from out of town who really have no vested interest in the city, and also who all drink the same Kool-Aid, and they're all delusionary.
Yeah, I'm sure the Kool-Aid company's making a lot of money on Fall River.
Okay,
but let's move on to the next big kahuna. Our friend, the vice president of the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction, Ken Fiola, who's never met an economic project that he can successfully do.
My God, if you talk about an abysmal record in job performance.
Yes.
I mean, you know, he's been in there for decades, and everybody complains about him, but he's entrenched politically so well, and no matter who it is that becomes the mayor. Now, everybody thought, well, you know, Sutter came in, he's kind of an outsider. He'll realize that, you know, in order for us to do anything different and maybe think a little differently, we need to get rid of either get rid of the Office of Economic Destruction or get rid of some of the players that have been doing nothing but giving us a lot of lip service and not delivering anything. But no, he managed to ingratiate himself and you know, and here we are. And of course now he's got the double whammy, because if you kick him to the curb, you know, you got a state rep that's not going to be real happy with you.
Well, you know, the only successful thing he's ever been good at doing is making sure his wife's political campaign coffers are generally lined very well.
Oh, I vividly remember that flyer that David Steinoff sent off, and that had a list of the campaign contributors of Flanagan and Carol Fiola. They were identical.
Identical, yeah. But and then you move on to the next politically entrenched individual who doesn't know what the private sector is, Bill Kenny. Never saw a job outside of government. He's a member of the Redevelopment Authority, which has worked its best to deceive the people of Fall River on potential projects. But the potential projects are all for the people on the Redevelopment Authority. They're the only people getting rich off of this. As a matter of fact, in their filings with the federal government, we see that members of the Redevelopment Authority are actually owe money to the Redevelopment Authority. So isn't that a lovely thing?
Well, we have situations here where we really need we probably really need a federal investigation, not a state, because the state is it's ridiculous, because they're all tied in the state. We really need the feds to come down here, because, we've seen what happens when they begin to investigate the speakers of the House. We've seen a few of them carted off in handcuffs and go to jail. They're coming to take me away. And we saw it in Rhode Island. And, this is the problem. We've got this inbred Jed mentality here that everybody's connected to everybody. And, we're going to have our, all our detractors are going to say, how negative we are. And let me just, before we continue along this vein, let me just clarify something here. What we're saying is either fact or our opinion, and we characterize it as that, and we are entitled to that. And calling things negative is just a label to try to take away some of the validity of what we say. So look, we can. You don't believe me? Look at Fiola's track record. The hell with his track record. Look at Fall River.
Exactly.
Just look at the businesses in Fall River, or the lack thereof. If you want to see what Correa did, just take a gander at the last campaign he ran, and he was summarily booted out after one term as the mayor. The fact is that you can have, you can try to say you love exactly what they're doing and you think it's wonderful. I think you're full of crap and that you're getting something from it, but that's my opinion. I can't prove that, but the fact is, anybody that can look at this city and tell me that this city is doing well when everybody else, not only in this state, but in the nation, looks at Fall River. We just got a report from Virginia. We've got reports from all over the country, from independent organizations that rank us at the top of what? Heroin use, crime, all the negative things. Those are really negative things. They're negative things. I'm not saying it's negative. Those are negatives. And then we want people to come to Fall River when people who come to Fall River don't listen to what people from Fall River say about Fall River. They look at reports and they Google it and they see what we're number one in. We're always at the top with all the bad things and always at the bottom with the good things. So, I don't normally use labels, but I'll give you guys a couple. Delusionary, Pollyannish, so we can, I can throw about labels too, So, if you want to be Pollyanna and think everything's wonderful, you can call us Chicken Littles and, the sky's always falling, but guess what? The sky has fallen. And so I know this is going to create a lot of, a lot of controversy because we're talking about it. And the standard defense is always, every time the mayor appoints somebody, they say he's in with the mayor. You're right. Because the fact is, every time he appoints somebody, they are in with them. So, if you think that's, we're being negative, really? Really? Half of those people are on his transition team.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to bring up, is that you look at Joe Marshall, okay, and Joan Medeiros. Now, both of these people are in finance, but they're on a committee where they don't have a fiduciary responsibility. So they don't have to tell us anything. And I asked very clearly, do you have a conscience? You served on the transition team. You came up with the transition reports, those things that I wouldn't even wipe my back end with. because they're totally fictitious, and you stand by them. And
Well, but they don't, CJ. I'm glad you mentioned that because I have to segue into something that really
Okay.
irritates me because they don't. Because there was one person who told the truth in the transition reports. That was Alan Sylvia.
Correct.
He's a numbers guy. And he told the city, and he told the mayor that the two things that you have to pay are your debt services and the retirement on time.
right.
He said that, and he put it in writing, and I'm going to get a copy of that. Because what did the city do? They ignored that. They sent the treasurer over trying to pay late. And that's why I'm going to file a complaint with the DOR and try to get the tax rate not to be certified until we straighten this mess out. So, we talk about a transition report, but they showed that they don't care what anybody says. They're going to do whatever they want and do it because they're just going to thumb their nose and say, well, if you don't like it, take me to court, file your complaints, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And this is one of the reasons that the city, we have to start paying attention. We have to change our government. But because, as I said, you're talking about the transition report, and as you said, we have two people who are in finance, yet they don't have any fiduciary obligation with this report. They can basically not be accurate. And
Right.
the fact is that, look, I've got a problem with, I don't care if they did have a fiduciary responsibility, because I've got a whole problem with what we have here. We've got a mayor that wants to do what all other politicians do, pass the buck to these appointed boards and task forces and these other buffers, because that's what they are. They're buffers. Because then when the sky falls again, they turn around and say, oh, well, I was acting on the recommendation of this board, and he'll throw them under the bus, and they'll just go along their merry way because they don't give two craps. They're not getting paid for it, or they may be getting paid for it. But what do they care? It's okay. Well, oops, we made another mistake. Oh, what's Kenny Fialo going to go? Oh, the casino didn't work. We brought in one of the worst employers in the world, Amazon. We're trying to get them in.
And they're not even here yet.
They're not even here yet. So, I mean, that's what irritates me. Because, something, you're elected as the mayor, you're elected to lead the city. Stop, that's a political, why did they need study groups, task forces for everything in government, except as an excuse? Because in private industry, they love to talk, Steve Wynn doesn't have a task force to tell him when he wants to build a casino. He calls in the people, and they build the casino, right. And he makes the decision because he's the boss. And what do? We have to study everything. We have to we need $1 million studies, feasibility studies. The roof's caving in, and Jesus, let's have a study. Well, none of this happens in private industry, and they always complain. But the problem is, they like gridlock, they like buffers, and the reality is, listen, Mr. Mayor, remember what Harry Truman said: the buck stops here. The buck's supposed to stop in your office, but if it stops in your office, you'll never see it because you're never in your office. But the fact is, it's supposed to stop there. You're supposed to make the decisions. Stop bringing in your cadre of cronies. I like that, cadre of cronies. Stop bringing in your cadre of cronies as a buffer to give you an out on every single major decision that we have to make in this city, because that's being cowardly.
It's amazing because, again, when we look at this task force and you look at the people on, of course, your friend, very good friend of yours, Rob Mellion, he's on that.
If they film him walking across the Taunton River, we'll get a lot of tourists.
Yeah, exactly. But he's on it. And, why not put the guy who always says, hey, it's not the business's responsibility to pay the taxes. Let the poor taxpayer pay it, not the businesses.
Yeah, Rob Mellion, the guy whose solution to everything is tax the businesses less, tax the people more, and give us every break in the world.
And give
Yet
it
it hasn't worked.
Right.
It hasn't worked.
But
Mr. Mellion is looking at businesses going out of business every day. The small businesses in this city are struggling because Mr. Million still hasn't figured out that you can take all their taxes away. You can take everything away. You can give them no expenses. But when your business is in a city that has people that can't afford to buy your product, you go out of business.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to figure out, Robbie boy.
You know, the thing is, though, that he does his job well. He really does. When you put what his job is, he represents his members. His members are businesses, so he's nothing but a huge lobbying organization, and he's the chief lobbyist.
But you know, CJ, you brought up a great point. He represents his membership, and I blame his membership.
Yeah.
Because if I was a small business owner in this city, I would tell Million, for crying out loud, stop going on there and trying to reduce my taxes. Go in there and try to get some jobs and people in here with money that can buy my products,
right,
and I can stay in business. You know, a lousy tax break that's going to save you $500 or $1,000 this year, and then you have no business. Nobody walks through your door for days. You know, get your heads out of your derrieres, people. I mean, I gotta do this. I've been waiting for this. I gotta do this. This is what you all have to do, because I have to read you a line from Bob Marley's famous song, Redemption Song. This is what you all need to do. Pay attention to what's going on and learn and start thinking with something other than the cheeks of your derriere. This is it. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, because that's what you suffer from. You believe everything these people say. And none but ourselves can free our minds. Only you can free your own mind. Start thinking, start paying attention. Businessmen of this community, I don't know what he's giving you at the Chamber of Commerce meetings.
Free booze and free food once a month.
Free booze and free food. Well, you can't stay in business. As I said, Fall River's got the second lowest amount of businesses of a city of its size in the Commonwealth, which coincides with the second lowest household income,
right,
and the second highest number of people below the poverty level. When are you going to free your mind and realize it's not about your tax factor? They have a higher tax factor in Newton. Guess what? They got 10,000 more businesses in Newton and 2,000 fewer people. Why? Because the average income is about 6 times higher than it is here. So,
but you know, it's not only just the average income. They have more disposable cash. Even if we had jobs in Fall River, okay, that paid a living wage, they'd have cash.
yeah.
They wouldn't be going from welfare check to welfare check or food stamp to food stamp. And you have a good indicator of this when you just go to the local Stop and Shop or Shaw's. Go down the meat aisle and look how many yellow tags are on the meat. A yellow tag is a reduced tag. That's to get it out of the store because it's been sitting on the shelf too long and it's going to go bad. So they cut the price down. And even the price that they're cutting down isn't that cheap because they're going to lose so much money. I mean, they're giving away $9 steaks for $6.34. So it's still not that cheap. But it's because they got so much stuff sitting around, so many perishables. And it's because nobody has money to spend it. If you're going to buy a steak at $9.99 a pound, or you're going to buy chicken thighs for 99 cents a pound, and you've got to make the decision, what are you going to get? You're going to get the 99 cents a pound chicken thighs, you know?
No, you're right.
But this is what local business has forgotten. When you go into your local bakeries, if you haven't noticed, they're carrying fewer and fewer items, quantity-wise. Not item-wise, but quantity-wise. Why? Because they have to throw it away because it's not selling. And then when you go in there because you really want something and it's not there, they say, well, we made enough today and there was a run on them today and we didn't make them. And you think, oh, okay, you know, they must be really good. No, it's because there's fewer and fewer. And that's what's happening to our community. There are fewer and fewer local merchants carrying an inventory because it's costing them too much money, and they can't stay in business.
You're right. Well, the fact is we've said it time and time again. But it's happening all over the country.
That's right.
One of the primary reasons for some of the presidential candidates is that the collapse of the middle class in this country, because there are no real jobs anymore. We've exported all the jobs, and business just makes large profits. But the fact is, when the rest of the country gets a cold, we get pneumonia. But we've said this time and time again. I mean, look, we've said it ad nauseum that, look, Fall River, 30 years ago, or even longer, was a place where people didn't have great jobs, but they had jobs. They worked in the mills. They worked on the road. Construction. Everybody. It was a blue collar, and everybody liked to think they were kind of like middle class, maybe lower middle class, but I don't think they were. I think we were barely, we were upper lower class.
But
in this city. But they have, but that's what I'm saying. The point is, we've said numerous times, when you had jobs, you also had some discretionary cash.
That's right.
And people did go out and they bought things. You had 2 clothing stores. You had a furniture store. So Chalmers was an institution in the Flint, and they even used to allow these people to pay by the month or by the week.
In the store.
In the store, yeah.
Right.
You had a little book.
Right.
But people bought things, and businesses stayed afloat, because even with, not the greatest job in the world, you still had a job. And look at what we do to Fall River now. We bring in people who don't have jobs for the most part, don't have any discretionary income, and you can't swipe your EBT card and buy a couch. So how many furniture stores are left in Fall River?
Right.
How many clothing stores are left in Fall River? I don't mean secondhand clothing.
No, exactly.
I mean men's shops. You had Empire Men's Shop and Sawyer's.
Yeah.
You had dress shops. You had Milady's Dress Shop downtown for years. These things were institutions in the city of Fall River.
You had
Virginia Dare.
You had Amazonia up to Flint.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember how many.
The Flint was like downtown.
Yeah.
The Flint was like a separate. They had 2 5 and dime stores. They had all the Flint was nothing but restaurants and stores years ago. And I grew up in the Flint. I know the Flint. We never went downtown because we had everything at the Flint. And the reality is, what's happened? Did we lose like these tremendously high-paying jobs? No. We lost the factories, we lost jobs, and more importantly, we lost the people.
Right.
Because the people left. They went where the jobs were. And they left Fall River, and they left, who did they leave in Fall River? Very few people. And then we began to increase our population.
Which we're doing now.
With the housing authority.
Which we're doing now.
And so if you economic geniuses are going to sit down and come up with your great master plans, like marketing the city and, all your little buzzword slogans, all you're doing is shoveling manure against the tide, because it's coming back in with the next tide. You guys are full of baloney. You can't do it. You got to build this city brick by brick, and you got to build it with an eye to reality. That we got to work with what you've got. And if you try these fixes based on your quote unquote data, you're doomed to failure again. But something, the task force is an insult to everybody's mentality, because something, it's just the same old people, and they're all politically connected. And I don't care if he got 10 people from out of town. I don't believe that this is the way we should run government in the first place. No. I'm sick and tired of committees and task forces and whatever you want to call them. They're all ways for the men who get paid to make the decisions not to make the decisions.
Right.
So something, Mayor, suck it up.
Well, it's the way it is, and we're in a political season, and as we said on Friday's show, it's probably the poorest political primary season we've seen, and I'm actually depressed with the voters. We've put out there the People's Debate. It is on the 16th of September at the Custer Middle School at 6 p.m. We have set it up. We are going to be in Spanish. We are going to be in Portuguese. It's ready to go. Guess what's not ready to go? A sufficient number of questions from you, the people, to draw from, which means your questions may not get chosen and may not get answered. Don't you have questions you want to ask these candidates? I have to ask, do you? Do you care? I think that's the problem. The people just don't care.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
And what's going to happen is we're going to have people come in the day of the debate, and they're going to want to give us 100 questions.
Not going to happen.
What you realize is we have to look at these questions and vet these questions, and we're not going to accept questions that are going to be, a personal attack on any candidate or a softball for any candidate. You know, we're going to try to get questions that every candidate can give an answer to, and we want questions that are relevant, but we don't want any minefield questions for anybody or any softballs
Exactly.
for them to hit home runs out of. And so let's get on it. Send us the questions. I've looked at one question so far.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because when the invitations went out, immediately I received phone calls from two of the people who were invited, which was Richard Renzi and Bobby Alexander, and they said, no, I'll be there. I said, okay, no problem. That left three. Jason Correa's letter, not only does his email come back, his postal mail came back. So I sent him a private message, and he said, no, I will be there. So we have Jazel. But guess who has not responded?
The mayor.
The mayor.
Well, you got to find them first.
Well, that's the key.
You got to find them first.
So the mayor still hasn't responded, which I don't know if that's a statement or if that's, just I'm too busy doing what, I don't know, but.
Well,
yeah.
he appeared at our last debate.
Yes, he did. He did.
But I think maybe now he may be considering it a hostile territory but as we said, he went to the last debate. I feel that debate was extremely fair. It was, the questions were vetted very well, and I think that everybody was treated fairly by the panel and by the moderator.
It's always set up that way.
And it's always going to be that way because, we will vent our frustrations here. But at a forum like that, we'll give you an opportunity to answer the questions. If we don't like the answers, well, that's what we're there for people to hear what they've got to say, to emancipate your mind.
And as a matter of fact, you and I don't sit as MC or on the board. We are we're the sponsors, and we're just there, just like everyone else will be there. So I definitely want to see you get your questions in. Send those to debate@scstonline.com. I'm expecting 1 million of them now by the time I get home.
Oh yeah, sure. Yes. Well, boy, that's Pollyannish. But listen, let me close with this quickly, people. Since we're trying to get everybody to think a little differently about government, listen. The reality is that government is not a giant circle around the campfire singing Kumbaya. The government was developed to have three separate entities which acted as checks and balances against each other: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. Stop letting them make you believe that you as a city councilor, you have to agree with the mayor or even get along with the mayor. You don't. What you need is an atmosphere of mutual respect and peaceful coexistence. That's all. Because as a city councilor, it's your obligation to the people to support anything that the mayor puts forth that's good for the city and good for the people, and oppose anything that's not. It's not about how much butt you can kiss with the mayor. It's about representing the people. It's your job. You're not supposed to be singing together. It's not the Fall River Government Choir. It's the Fall River Government. Stay angry, and let's vote in September.
Thanks for watching.